We'll have two policy speeches from the ministries in Sweden and in Japan. There will be an introduction of the actual collaborative program, presentations of these projects in the program. We'll be having a second policy speech from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, followed by panel discussions. First, one panel discussion discussing the projects in this joint program, and then a second panel discussion going a bit further and addressing the question how and if Sweden and Japan could continue collaboration. How should this be done and in which areas? Then we'll have summary and closing remarks. And with this, I'd like to welcome Ambassador Pereric Högberg. Stage is yours.
Where do you want to
I guess.
Hello everyone, konnichiwa. Hey, välkommen, welcome. Wonderful to see people in the auditorium here at the Swedish Embassy, and also very nice to see people online. We would have loved to welcome friends and colleagues and partners from Sweden to the Swedish Embassy here in Tokyo today. But for obvious reason, we have to postpone that until a later stage. But we have learned a lot. We here at the Swedish Embassy, and I'm sure at all the different organizations and institutions, both in Japan and in Sweden, we are communicating. And it works pretty well. But I am a strong believer in human interaction. I think things happen when we actually meet each other, when we look each other in the eyes, when we laugh, sometimes when we argue. But this is the best we can do at the moment, and it is a way of keeping this relationship going. Because Sweden and Japan, we go far back, and I am certain that we will also move far into the future together. And a seminar and symposium like this one today really gives me enthusiasm. I can't think of better things that Japan and Sweden should do together than to think about joint societal challenges. We live in extraordinary times. I'm sure that you, as well as I, have been glued in front of the TV the last 24 hours trying to understand what's happening in one specific country. In the rest of the world that we perhaps are paying too little attention to right now, other things are going on. The world is changing, but we have global challenges of mutual concern. And we have global challenges that is of mutual concern both for Sweden and for Japan. And you that are with us today, either here or online, you are at the forefront, actually doing this together, because we have so much to learn from our two countries. Nobel Prize. I have to say, I look forward to the day when I will see that Japan has even more Nobel Prizes than Sweden has. We are still a little bit ahead. It was a pity that Japan did not get one this year, but the way of thinking that I have is that the statistical probability for a Japanese prize next year has evidently increased quite tremendously, as you didn't get one this year. So if that makes sense from an academic point of view, I don't know, but we hope for more Nobel Prizes. Because the Nobel Prize is really where we also unite in innovation, in co-creation. And when we do not only research to make the new discoveries, but we bring it into our societies. So I'm very happy today to also see that we are bringing business and companies into our discussions, because together we are looking at where societies are going, how we do discoveries, how we improve our innovation, and how we co-create jointly and together. So very welcome to this co-creation program between JST and Vinnova and the societal challenges, not least when it comes to an aging population. I would like to challenge you. I look forward to hear and listen to your discussions today and learn more about progress and possible and probable future applications. I look forward to hear the discussions on how we can collaborate together and how we can continue to deepen the relationship when it comes to research and innovation between our two countries. But I would also like to challenge you in these extraordinary times that we are living in. How can we make these efforts more well known also to the general public? We are in the know, you are in the know, and that's the way it should be. That's where the focus should be. But can we also, throughout the day and throughout our continued cooperation, find ways of making this more known between Sweden and Japan, in Sweden and in Japan? Very welcome. Keep up the good work. You are at the forefront of the Swedish-Japanese partnership into the future. Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Högberg. I'm Michael Jacob. I'm Science and Innovation Counselor for Sweden here at the Embassy and head of the Office of Science and Innovation. And this event today, we co-organized together with JST here in Japan and Vinnova in Sweden. And I would now like to welcome Dr. Kajiwara from the ministry MEXT, the research-oriented ministry here in Japan. Welcome.
Okay, hello everyone. So my name is Kajiwara Susumu. So Deputy Director General, the Science and Technology Policy Bureau of the Ministry of Education, Culture, Sports, Science and Technology. It's a MEXT. So today I'm delighted to have opportunity to say a few words on the occasion in this symposium. So today's symposium is held on the focus of the Sweden-Japan International Academic Industry Collaboration Program, which started in the 2017 as a SciCorp. It's a JST's Strategic International Collaborative Research Program. So I heard that due to the impact of the COVID-19, our Swedish participants are joining online, and I'm greatly appreciate your attendance so early in the morning. So Japan and Sweden has a history of diplomacy going back over 150 years. In 1999, our two countries signed an agreement on the cooperation in science and technology. Since then, through the holding of the Sweden and Japan Joint Committee on the Scientific and Technological Cooperation, we have had regular opportunities to the exchange opinion on the advancement of the science, technology, and innovation policies, and the current state of the collaborative activity of our two countries. At the previous joint committees meeting, we also introduced two joint research projects on how to address an aging society, which is the theme of today's symposium. I think that both of these current research projects will contribute to the realization of the society in which the elderly are able to keep their health and continue to live actively Today, I hope that there will be a lively exchanges of views on the progress and issue of the current joint researches that have entered the second years of phase 2. I hope that this symposium will be a wonderful opportunity for the future development of these research projects. The social implementation of the outcomes, and moreover, the further development of the international science and technology cooperation between Sweden and Japan. In addition, another example of the exchanges between our two countries is the Mirai project, which is an academic exchange project between the Swedish and Japanese university. The other day, a kick-off event was held for the new phase of this project, where lively discussions took place between the researchers of our two countries. I was pleased on that occasion as well to have been able to express my congratulations and hopes. Ministry of Education and MEXT would like to continue to offer support in order to further strengthen the partnership between the both countries. Finally, I'd like to express my deepest respect and gratitude to the Sweden's Innovation Agency, Vinnova, the Swedish Embassy, and JST for their magnificent effort in the planning and managing this symposium, and to also extend my best wish to all the participants for the future development and even greater amicable goodwill between Sweden and Japan. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kajiwara-san. Very important collaborations between Sweden and Japan that you bring up here. We will now move over to Sweden and the Swedish Ministry of Enterprise and Innovation, where we have Director General Carl Rosén, with a number of different agencies in his portfolio, including Sweden's Innovation Agency, Vinnova. Carl. I think the microphone might be muted.
So, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you very much for attending this this conference, and it is an honor to be here with you today. I spent quite a lot of time in Japan previously, so I'm absolutely fascinated by the country and the capacity and the potential of a lot of things. My wife and I even got engaged at Lake Kawaguchiko at the Mount Fuji. So I have a good impression to start with. And it's quite obvious that Sweden and Japan, we have so many things in common when it comes to research and development. When it comes to the amount of or the percentage of money that we spent on R&D is very similar, and it's very high. It's world class. What we also have in common is that we have a lot of multinational world-leading companies. We are actually used to doing business globally, and in that sense, we can get a lot out of our innovation and research and so forth. And when it comes to innovation, I think it's very, very important to have these kinds of meetings and to have these collaborations. Japan, as a country, you have a lot of collaboration worldwide, and it's the same thing for us. And I think that is the only way to make progress, regardless if it's COVID-19 or other challenges like the ones that we will talk about today. So a lot of things in common. And I would like to give some examples of this. One is of course that I haven't seen the statistics on it, but I think that that's my belief that the Hitachi investment in Sweden last year was actually the largest business investment in Sweden so far. And of course, that's a company with a lot of R&D and so forth. I think that when we talk about research, innovation, and business, of course, it's very important to have an environment that can pick up the new ideas and so forth. And I think that in the startup scene, I think that there's a lot of potential. In Sweden, we have developed a startup scene for like the last 20, 30 years. And I know there are a lot of initiatives going on in Japan too. So I think that is another field of collaboration. But today's conference is about one of the largest challenges for us and as mankind or countries. And I'm really looking forward to hear from you the development of the projects and how we can move forward. So with that, I would like to thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to the next presentations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director General Carl Rosén. And that leads us straight into the actual collaborative program. So to get an introduction for this, I would like to invite Dr. Goto to the stage here, Program Manager at Japan Science and Technology. Stage is yours.
I'm Yoshiko Goto, the program officer on the Japanese side. His Excellency and distinguished guests, and special thanks to the governments and the agencies, and also the embassy who held much for today's the occasion. Let me just briefly introduce today's the programs. Okay, I cover this within 10 minutes. So many problems. Are unsolved and getting even worse, and urgent and internationally common. Today, we will focus on aging mainly. And according to the textbook of econ, the trade of the free economy would lead to everyone's prosperity and happiness. But reality is it's not happening like this manner. Oh. In the African nations, AIDS are still spreading. COVID-19 is hitting the weaker nations. So we are under challenge, and the society, economy, even democracy is being challenged. So like the ambassador said, certain country or another certain big country is trying to encourage dividedness kind of things. So some attempts or measures or alternatives, or sometimes slogans or movements or techniques or frameworks or money raising systems or kind of things. Sometimes it occurs and lasts for 5 years, some 10 years, or some, the most recent one lasts for 15 years. However, the innovation or international innovation can be counted at any time, at anywhere. So we cover this issue today. Second one, difference. So according to the Danish researchers' work, a welfare regime has been clusterized into 3 groups. And Sweden belongs to the Nordic one, Japanese in free one, and the middle is a so-called continent Catholic countries. So not even neighbor, quite different. So both 2 countries are now cooperating. This is a good point. Sometimes challenge occurs. Today I skipped this. And also according to the Czechoslovakian researchers' work, so the society is covered by the activities by the government, private sector, and the community. So if the certain big presidential the riot is happening, the small small government model means this horizontal line goes up, small government. And the large government model, then this line comes low. If the small government, then here's the gap is larger. And the gap is covered by the so-called third sector or kind of activities. So this shape is differs country to country. So Sweden, Japan, different. I skip, like I'm saying that multinational, US, European, Japan, environmental, labor kind of issue, which country is enthusiastic in which area kind of things. Americans are not so much in environment kind of things are shown here. So to summarize, differences. 2 countries, academia, industry, even JST and Vinnova, they have own culture. They're all different. So we need to cooperate, not harmonize into the single one. This understanding the difference, still cooperate. However, some similarities, not in the center. This sort of explanation might be unhappy for someone, I'm afraid. But the free economy or so-called global system led by the US kind of system, fortunately or unfortunately, we are not in the very center in that system. Now it's causing many problems, like I said, poverty, division, climate change. They are all coming from this kind of capitalism or free economy. And also, we have a unique approach. Not the same, but both have unique approach to sustainability. Or Japan, we have even Zen or kind of valuation system is quite sometimes different. Coming back to the difference, this is a negative word sometimes. However, if we understand diversity, this is positive. So thanks to diversity, we can expect the outcomes to be like this. So here I used kind of humble words. In other words, the international presence or the leadership kind of words we skipped today. This is a diplomatic occasion, so I skipped. Our system is agreement between MEI and MEXT, and the government level, agency level, and the 4 projects have been picked for the first. And the 4 circles, 2 by 2, industry academia in both sides, makes lots of hurdle to establish this research team, at least 4 organizations. Sometimes people claim we are internationally cooperating, Japan and Sweden in a different manner, and sometimes just liaison kind of. This is, it can be called international cooperation. However, this is better, much better, single one, quite better. So this can be a point if you listen to the researchers later on, how they are doing that. Of course, it depends on the project or technology. So sorry for the Japanese. Phase 1, 2 years, how much money, Japanese yen and Swedish krona by relative governments. Phase 2, 3 years. And here is a stage gate. Project number will be limited, so money will go up. Two years, 3 years, stage gate. 4 projects have been elected for the first. So it means here, starting up by 4 projects. How the cooperation, not just the research team, as well as the agencies, JST and Vinnova, how we are cooperating. In the midterm of the phase 1, there was the symposium. It was held right here in 18. That time, we see many people, 4 projects, 2 people, 8 people, and MCs from Vinnova and myself. I need to be quick. I finish up. That time, the Japanese side took a poll on the audience, which project looks nice. So one is quite nice, one is rather poor. So going on to the stage gate, it was a kind of preparation to the stage gate. Since we asked for project leaders if we can share the score, they welcomed. So we shared the scores. So they made a preparedness. Maybe my project is not so good or going well, kind of things. So, sorry. And we made a stage gate meeting in Vinnova last year. And we independently evaluated the program. J is Japan, S is Vinnova. If we normalize this, this is a bare score, and normalize that, then this. Compared with that, the midterm symposium's score, or almost the same, or this. So two have been selected for the phase 2. So you will hear 2 projects from now. This is it. So finally, today's symposium in the very mid of phase 2. If you look at your handout of the program, so it's divided into 3 parts. First, the projects. Second, the elderly kind of the panel discussion. The last panel is for innovation. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Goto, for this framing of what we will now begin to hear. So I would like to welcome the first project, Professor Matsuo from the Japanese side, and in Sweden we have Professor Mats Stading from the RISE Institute. So I leave over to you to you two together to give a presentation of your important project here.
Okay.
Welcome.
So thank you for having me here. And is Mats there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. So let's start our presentations. I'm Koichiro Matsuo from Fujita Health Universities, and
I'm Matt Stading from Chalmers University of Technology and also RISE Research Institute of Sweden.
okay. So let me start for our background. So okay. So here's the concept of our project Go Independent, which is the collaborating project between Swedish food scientists and Japanese dentists with industrial partners. So it consists of food developments and exercise and monitoring. And we have several work packages, and some are layers and some are collaborating projects between 2 countries. And here's our team, our members in Sweden and Japan. RISE and Fujita Health Universities are project leaders. And we have some academia partners like University of Tokyo or University of Tsukuba or the other partners in Swedish universities. And also Findus, Foodini's industries partners in Sweden, and Food Care and Primes are Japanese industrial partners. And also municipalities are involved in our project, Helsingborg and in Sweden, and Toyoake or Daito cities in Japan. And here's a list of many partners in our project and collaborated with each other. And we have a Facebook page, and also we have the same home pages in Swedish version and Japanese version. And we have many collaborated meetings. So like project meeting, we usually have 2 times a year in Sweden and in Japan. Unfortunately, this year, we could not have a physical meeting, but we already had an online meeting, like here. And also we visited each other and we had many discussions. And also we visited companies in both countries and also visited nursing homes in Sweden and in Japan, because we are very interested in food and eating behavior in elderly in both countries. And since I am a dentist, I always introduce the importance of the oral function and oral health. And finally, they got noticed the importance of the oral functions. And in second phase, they take some oral functional assessment as well. And since the main interest of our project is food or eating, and the eating is a culture in your country, so we exchange our culture many times. So when they came to our countries, we introduced our food. And of course, when we visited Gothenburg, we always eat seafoods. Okay, can I go back to the slide? Okay, so I'd like to now pass to my friend in Gothenburg without seafood. Okay.
Yes, thank you very much. One part of the project is actually to have foods that work when you start having problems. And many elderly experience swallowing disorders in some kinds. It's actually about 40% of people over 70. So unfortunately, a lot of us will experience it. So if you look at the next page, next slide, you can see some of the things that we have done. You have to manage the disorders in some way. And you thicken the drinks, you texture adjust the foods. So the more problems you have, the more you adjust the food. So you start with normal foods, then you have timble food and gels and soups and so on. And by far the most common food, at least in Sweden, is timbles, if you still can have solid foods. And timble is, you take a puree, then you reconstitute it with starch and egg into something that is solid, but simple to chew and keeps together when you swallow it. So you can see some timbles up in the right corner. They are already on the market and the company make them are in the project. So we have been working with improving these timbles. We'll talk more about sensors that we used in combination with this. And also we have used 3D printing to make these timbles look more like real foods. So in the bottom right picture, you can actually see 3D printed foods. It's purees that are 3D printed as a chicken club and as broccoli. It's very useful when you have patients that are, for example, having problems in recognizing foods. And also you can personalize this food according to the needs. If we then go on to the next picture, some recent results is that it's actually the bolus that you're swallowing that is important for managing disorders. It's not really the food. So we have been studying the boluses and we have done it in the way that we ask some subjects to chew the food, and when they want to swallow it, they spit it out, and then we measure the properties. So we measure rheological properties, viscosity, extension viscosity, modulus, and so on. We measure saliva content, moisture content, and some other parameters. And we do this for the classes from normal food and then adjust it to timble and adjust it to gel and some different food types, bread, cheese, and tomato, and we combine that into sandwich. And just to cut the long story short, so in the next picture, you can actually see the conclusions from the study, and the texture adjustment actually works, which is nice to see. If you adjust the food, you also adjust the bolus properties. You do need less saliva and you can chew less for the adjusted foods, which is good for the people suffering from disorders. And also that the bolus in itself is easier to swallow. One thing that we didn't expect was actually that the composite of foods is better than food alone. So if you combine this into a sandwich, it's easier to swallow, you need even less saliva, and it has better swallowing properties. So it's better to eat a sandwich than the bread alone. And with this, I leave back to Professor Matsu.
Okay. Thank you. So next, I'd like to talk about our studies. In Japan, we have several work packages, and let's go back to the slide. So in both countries, both countries with a super aged society, it's really important to prevent a dependency or frailty now. So the first project is to develop the comprehensive frail preventing program in Japan. So frailty is the entrance or start of dependency. And frailty has several causes. And one of the causes is oral frailty, frailty of oral function. But the other factors also are causes of the frailty, like malnutrition, low physical activity, and low social activities. So we developed some program for each causes, like oral exercise for oral frailty, manchi bento, which will be explained later, and physical exercise and eating together in social activities. And we make a package to prevent frail prevention program. And here's the concept of manchi lunch. We call in Japanese kam-kam bento to enhance masticatory functions. So to chew well and to get good nutrition. Because elderly people tend to eat softer diet and avoid hard diet like meat or vegetables. So we would like them to eat more chewy food like meat or vegetables. So it consists of a rice and main dish and 2 side dishes. And we did a randomized control trial in 12 weeks, and intervention groups, we asked them to do this comprehensive program, which consists of oral exercises at home and physical exercises together 2 times a week, and eat manchi lunch together with all participants 2 times a week. And here's the result of our studies. Body fat mass and time up and go test, which is a physical performance test, significantly improved in intervention group, which is pink colored. And also oral functions like tongue pressure, like tongue strength, and Ka is oral diadochokinesis, also significantly improved. So, and the final goal of our project is social implementation of our program. And the target is integrated implementation of health service and care prevention for elderly citizens in Japan and using a Yoichiro. And we now developed this project in 3 cities. And here's one of the study in Toyoaki cities with municipality and Aiho dental associations. And we created a handbook for this, our program. This is an explanation of our comprehensive program and some recipes. And those recipes and the handbook and also some movies, introduction movies are all on our website. And I'd like to briefly introduce our eating monitoring system. So to prevent malnutrition and also aspiration pneumonia and choking are also important for dependent or frail elderly. So now we developing swallowing sensors for monitoring eating function in elderly with Dr. Suzuki from Tsukuba Universities. And this Gokuri swallowing sensor can detect the swallowing sound. And now we developing this new algorithm for Gokuri to extract the swallowing sound during the meal. And now this Gokuri is now used in Swedish partners. So I'd like to pass to Dr. Matt starting.
Yeah, so if we look in the next picture, we have also done some studies on this. It's quite an amazing gadget. And I mean, you can imagine that you can't really have an X-ray equipment or aerometer in a care facility, but this is something that you can have. So if you can detect early if you start to have swallowing disorders, or if you can monitor how much patients eat, it would be fantastic. So we have started also some early studies, and in the next pictures we can see that we are trying to detect different types of foods. And then we started with fluids, and we started with body fluids that are clearly different in how they behave. And we can actually see that we can distinguish if a fluid is elastic or not. You can think about if it's slightly slimy, we can detect it. And this is a good start. If you can continue this to actually also detect different foods, it's a big step. You can do it in every care facility. Then in the next picture, you can see that we were also encouraged by the good results in the intervention study. So we have a similar study that has started where we combine food and exercise. The food here is not practice food. It's more food that it's normal food within a normal budget, but it has more protein and more energy. So the groups also here meet twice a week. They eat lunch together and they do physical exercise. And one of the physical exercise sessions is performed by the Swedish Judo Association, who has fall prevention programs, which has been proven very successful in other studies as well. And the goal with this is to develop a program that involves both food and exercise that we can give to the municipalities and to the care facilities to show that if you follow this, you can actually have healthier seniors and more independent seniors. Unfortunately, as you see in the next picture, we just started this study and then all the virus restrictions took place. So we couldn't have any groups with older seniors, similar to the BOLO study where we also wanted to continue with the seniors. We have to wait with that. We hope that we can continue in next spring, but the groups are very eager to start to follow this up, the seniors. So they have continued with the app to do exercises at home. So hopefully we can open this again in the spring. It will be very good. And I think with that we have reached the end. If you don't have anything to add, Koichiro, we are open for questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And let's save the questions for when we get to the panel discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'd like to now invite up to the stage Professor Somea from University of Tokyo, and on link from Sweden we have Professor Magnus Berggren from Linköping University. Will be very exciting to hear your project presentation also. Please.
So thank you very much. Good afternoon or good morning. My name is Takao Somea from University of Tokyo, and Swedish team is led by Professor Magnus Berggren, Linköping University. So could you show my presentation slide at screen, please? Yes, the next one, please. So global aging is widely perceived as one of the most significant risks to global prosperities. In order to improve the quality of life for elderly people, what we should do? The first solution is home health care, in which people are responsible for their own health, as well as their family members. The second solution is to seize the gift of longevity. If elderly people can continue to remain active participants in society, the burden of healthcare can be reduced. At the same time, their rich experiences can be shared by young generation. Now, our vision is quality of life for elderly people will be enhanced by continuously monitoring health conditions. So to achieve our goal, we need to foster age-friendly accessibility to information. When IT technology is utilized to support and to maintain health and support independence, it should be friendly for elderly who is the user. How wonderful it is if everyone can, we can monitor health condition anywhere, anytime, everywhere. So towards the realization of data-driven society for elderly, we will enhance reliability and conformability of wearables. So we will clarify the required specification and a business model to promote social implementation. So this is quite exciting. So each country may have different culture, lifestyles, and measured to evaluate their values. So although enabling technology might be very similar, but we need the customization and to establish the business model that may well fit with the value of in each country. So to achieve our goal, so we formed the Japanese-Swedish collaboration team led by University of Tokyo and Linköping University, with many, many industrial partners. So now I want to show you our enabling technology. So this is the closed type motion capturing system where 7 accelerometers are embedded on the surface of sportswear. So we don't need the markers or complicated camera setting. Just wear this clothes, having the multiple sensors, start monitoring people's motion very accurately. Just you need to wear the clothes. So this smart wears are developed by Zenoma, which is the startup company from the University of Tokyo. So complicated camera setting may be allowed at the very specific place, but because we don't need the camera setting, so we can start monitoring the athlete motion everywhere, anytime, even in the golf or during the running. So now we want to discuss the technology in detail. So one of the amazing things of this technology is accuracy. So now we want to monitor the minimum toe clearances. Just we start monitoring people's motion from which we accurately evaluate the minimum toe clearance, which is always very important to watch the walking style of elderly. From our estimation, we achieved the accuracy of minimum toe clearance to be 2 centimeters, which is sufficient to get the good feedback. So now we go to the field trial. And this is the public demo. And to test the feasibility, we have evaluated the walking patterns of 100 adults using our e-skin capturing system. And 10-meter walk is sufficient to evaluate the individual walking characteristics, from which we may know the some problems of walking, and then give the some feedback to individual users. So now you see the movie of public trial. So we want to now use this wearable tech to improve the quality for the elderly people. So we have now 2 different use. One is the clinical use and the other one is home use. Both of them have different requirement and specification. So in clinical use, we need the quantitative and objective assessment. Lack of those 2 assessments leads to the bias evaluation or absence of standardized record of improving during the patient rehabilitation program. And in home use, they have to wear this kind of clothes for a longer period of time. And then comfortable wearing is quite important. Now, we make the customized pants for the elderly that can be used in clinical use. And another one is e-skin for home use. For clinical use, the easy to put on by caregivers are very important. And for that purpose, so we can now make the this kind of arrangement so that the patient can wear this one with the support of caregivers. And then for clinical use requires the more quantitative analysis, and then accuracy might be the key. In sharp contrast, the home care use doesn't require such kind of accuracy. However, the patient have to wear this wear by themselves, and much easier way to get this clothes is needed. And another important thing is comfortability. So because they have to wear for the longer period of time. Now, we want to show you the how it works. So now, person with spinal cord injury volunteers to use our first system prototype at home. And then this kind of motion can be monitored remotely, and a clinician watch the walking patterns remotely. So finally, so this is a futuristic system for remote rehabilitation. So elderly people wear our pants, and then walking patterns can be monitored remotely by clinician in hospital or daycares. And planning, we are planning to increase the sample size, include various patient population that includes the spinal cord injury and stroke and Parkinson's disease, and try to establish the better service. Now, the rest of our presentation will be given by Professor Magnus Berggren. So Magnus, please.
Konnichiwa, everyone. Thank you very much for this introduction, Takao. I will continue with the part from on the Swedish side. Professor Someya presented the motion patterns upon walking, but in many cases also elderly become also suffering from vasculatory or respiratory disorders, and that in many cases leads to edema, basically that you have an accumulation of water in the legs. This is a condition that needs to be monitored. It needs to be maintained within a certain boundary conditions, otherwise you have to enter into hospitalization. It turns out that this needs to be monitored as it stands today by nurses or doctors basically visiting the patient or the elderly people. And we have identified here in Sweden people living on the remote countryside, and in Japan it's of course more of the metropolitan area. But there are similar problems. It's hard for doctors and nurses to travel in both locations. And we have focused very much on edema, this accumulation of water, and by doing that also using the wearables sensors that Professor Someya just reported. And the prime target is to use strain sensors that can monitor the level of swollenness in the legs. The next slide, please.
So next slide, please.
So on our side, we have developed a intra-body network technology. You can start the video if it works by clicking. Yeah, so we have sensors on the body recording and monitoring sensor parameters. Above a certain threshold, it can then communicate this to devices that release or that call upon attention from the healthcare system. And this is a technology that is supposed to be connected to the cloud for further assistance or triggering alarm events or whatever. The next slide, please. And we have applied this technology into many disorders and healthcare settings. So this body you see here carries small sensor patches on the hand, on the chest, and also on the neck. These can communicate in between each other using low power protocols, but they can also communicate to a unit sitting, in this case, on the right side arm here. This unit can then communicate to a portable device using a Bluetooth protocol primarily, and then further on to the cloud, where you have decision making supported by AI protocols. So the idea here is to apply this technology to support stockings, where we put sensors on the stocking to record the level of swollenness. Then we can then communicate this data to the healthcare provider, which in this case is Kajiwara. The stocking materials is provided by the companies Trikobi and Medisox, and we have had a nice collaboration with them over the entire product. Next slide, please. So specifically, these strain sensors here is marked as yellow straps. They are located, in this case, on 2 positions. These have been developed by the Japanese side, and we have then integrated those into our electronic system that is basically integrated into these support stockings. The level of swelling is then monitored by elongating these capacitors, and then you are changing the physical parameters of this device. And when you change the physical dimensions of this device, the electrical characteristics changes. In this case, it's the capacitance, which is an electronic parameter of this device. And yes, you can see down to the bottom left, you have the relaxed state, and when you stretch and you introduce a higher degree of swollen level, they turn stretched, and then you loosen down, and you can see that you can continuously all the time monitoring this, and this can then be automatically transferred to communication unit using Bluetooth protocol, and then further on for remote monitoring by the healthcare system. And as we state here, we have put those sensors at the ankle, upper calf level to monitor the levels. And you can, of course, think of having dozens of these sensors all over the sock, but in order to make the initial test simple, we have decided to go for 2 specific sensors. The next slide, please. And then, of course, it's important to monitor these level of swelling in the correct way. The application of the specific sensor has turned out to be very important. The location has been moved around a little bit. And then, of course, also connectivity. We need to charge this. There has been quite amount of work also in developing the charging, electrical charging of this, so they can be used in a remote setting. And also the digital and electronic part has been a great part of recent development and success. The capacitance voltage converter at the bottom has been another very important part. And then the next slide, please. Yeah, so one of the great achievements also recently has been to transfer this into a Bluetooth protocol that is the low energy to extend the battery lifetime. The goal is to, of course, to have something that goes for 24 hours or even longer. That has turned out to be an important asset in order not to reach for connectivity and then to some extent paralyze the elderly person. So in summary, we have then utilized the communication, the Internet of Things technology platform devoted for both sensing and actuation in healthcare, combined and with all the great achievements conducted on the Japanese side and guided by Professor Sumeya and University of Tokyo. And we have now complete system that we are now entering after New Year to apply to a patient settings on a remote island of Sweden, where there is a particular challenge for the healthcare system to reach out to patients. And this is connected to Borgholm on Öland, the island outside the Swedish mainland. And this has been coordinated together with one of our industrial partners, being Kajiwara, that is an e-health provider here in Sweden. Yeah, so by that, I'd like to thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much for this presentation also, and thank you very much for both of these exciting presentations. Kind of long for the future when I'll be able to use all these results. It's very interesting also, I think, to see how you have been starting off from a research perspective and are really nearing into innovation now in commercialization phase and so on. Before we move over to the panel discussion, it's my great honor to introduce next policy speech by Dr. Matsumoto, Science and Technology Advisor to the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Welcome.
So maybe I can remove my mask. And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great honor and pleasure to be here. I am Yoichiro Matsumoto, Science and Technology Advisor to the Minister for Foreign Affairs. This April, I took over Dr. Kishi's position, first Science and Technology Advisor. First of all, I would like to express my appreciation to Vinnova, Embassy of Sweden in Japan, and JST for organizing this symposium. I also would like to pay my respect to continuous effort by all participants in Japan, Sweden, collaborative research program. Currently, diplomacy utilizing science and technology is becoming increasingly important. While we face global challenges such as climate change, health and aging issues, and SDGs. So we are always thinking about SDGs, how to reach that goals in 10 years. It's not so easy, I suppose. But in April, Foreign Ministry, Mr. Motegi asked me to provide advice to him because science, technology, and innovation are key drivers, not only for economic growth, but also for national and international security and tackling global issues. In this regard, we can see that science and technology diplomacy plays a vital role to connect science with challenges in diplomacy. In 2010, the Royal Society published a report called New Frontiers in Science and Diplomacy, which advocates 3 dimensions: science in diplomacy, diplomacy for science, and science for diplomacy. I don't want to say any more, but you can imagine what those things mean. I would like to explain briefly about my recent activities. Regarding science in diplomacy, Advisory Board for promotion of science and technology diplomacy was established in September to utilize their knowledge and expertise in planning of foreign policies. During the COVID-19, it's not so easy to do activity in those directions. I myself cannot go abroad anymore, and so I just sitting down somewhere. It's not so interesting anyhow. And in relation to Science for Diplomacy Japan, together, okay, together with US, UK, and New Zealand has established and been contributing to strengthening the network among science and technology advisors called FAMSTON. Foreign Ministry Science and Technology Advice Network since the time of Dr. Kishi. We have already attended its online meeting, only online, meeting several times. Under the concept, diplomacy for science, we have been promoting international cooperation in the field of science technology through outreach activity on Japanese science technology innovation. Now I would like to turn on current, only I have 5 minutes, I know it. And turn on the future direction of bilateral science technology cooperation between Japan and Sweden. I really enjoy this kind of program and symposium. Since the signing of the bilateral agreement on cooperation in science technology in 1999, you are very actively, you are arranging very actively. And it was very meaningful that the last joint committee meeting was held in 2018, which marked the 150th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between Japan and Sweden. The committee discussed the wide range of cooperation such as aging society and so on. The theme of this symposium is how to deal with an aging society, which is one of the most important cooperation area addressed at the last joint committee. I believe this will pave the way to the realization of society promoting active and healthy aging. At this moment, Japan is top runner of aging society. And elderly people, the ratio of elderly people in Japan is increasing and increasing. But the important thing is how to prolong the elderly people healthy aging. So maybe that kind of things will help to how to prolong the elderly peoples in healthy condition. Okay, as my final remark, let me express my sincere hope that today's discussion will enrich our bilateral cooperation and enhance our relationship much longer, much stronger. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for this, Professor Matsumoto. And it is a truly important challenge, the challenge of aging population and to promote healthy and active aging. And also think it was very interesting that you raised the point of the memorandum of understanding we have between our countries, and that we had the last joint committee meeting 2018. So perhaps it's time to start discussing when the next one should be. We'll now move over to panel discussions. First, a panel discussion together with the project leaders from the Swedish and Japanese side, with Professor Goto as moderator here. So I leave the word over to you.
Thank you, Mike. Now we're going to start for the panel one, which is dedicated to the two projects. The project leaders are joining physically two leaders and online two leaders. So we are so happy if anyone would like to raise the questions, or even the small technical parts, or how we manage the joint research issues. So physically joining audience, and also people from online. So there's officials there, colleagues there, so they are reading chats online. Are they already coming, or not yet? Okay. So even the researchers' mutual questions also welcomed. Any questions? Thank you. Go ahead. So if you don't mind, so tell your name or organization and say a question.
Do I use the microphone, or maybe?
Now it's coming from behind.
Thank you very much. Very nice report from the researchers. I'm Osamu Kobayashi. I'm the director of the Department of International Affairs of JST. So I'm very glad to hear the progress of the research collaboration, which we funded for long years. Okay, so one question to Matsuo Sensei and one question is Somiya Sensei. Very basic one, because I'm not a researcher, so maybe stupid question, but allow me to ask like this. So yeah, Matsuo Sensei, you mentioned about the gokuri. Gokuri, the microphone or sorry. Yeah. And how do you feedback the sound which took from the gokuri to your product? Maybe you reflect the something, difference of the sound to the your 3D Chewy products. Maybe it will affect to the texture or solidity or something like this. So how do you reflect that? This is my question to Matsuo Sensei. And my question to the Somiya Sensei is, okay, so because you can, your bodysuits can collect the data from the motion of the people, even not from the elderly people, but athlete or younger people, not I'm not younger, but the people like me. So do you use your technologies for those kind of purposes, not only for the elderly people? Do you think something like this? Okay, this is my question. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you very much for your questions. Gokuri is originally developed by Dr. Suzuki from University of Tsukuba, and he is a JST grant. And he also started a company, Primes. They sell the Gokuri. Gokuri is a device to detect swallowing sound and to count the swallowing numbers using that device. And in our project, we use Gokuri to apply for clinical use, like in nursing homes or a house just where individual elderly person live alone, we applied the device to put as a sensor to count swallowing. And we also use the masticatory counter to eating monitoring, because the worst complication of eating is choking or aspiration. And if you measure chewing and swallowing in nursing home or house, and you can detect some abnormal behavior in eating. Like in hospitals or in nursing homes, there are so many accidents associated with choking, because healthcare givers, the number of those people are very limited. So they cannot monitor each person. So if we apply that device to monitor eating, also those devices measure the posture. So their posture is abnormal, like recline or something, and then the machine can detect. So those devices advantage. With those advantage, you'd like to apply that device for clinical use in nursing home or hospitals. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any comments from Sweden? Okay.
Can I add something?
Do you any comments about Gokuri? It's okay.
Can I add something, Matt stating here?
Please, go ahead.
Yeah, a concrete examples, as you asked, if there is a feedback from the sensor to the food. And a concrete example is that we see that the swallowing time is longer for elastic fluids, and we know that the food additive xanthan is elastic. So we will try to add that to the foods to make the bolus more cohesive, so it doesn't, to avoid aspiration, so it doesn't go into the lungs. So it's a very concrete example that there is always a feedback to the development.
Thank you. Now go on to the Professor Sommer's question.
Okay, so thank you very much for your wonderful question. And indeed, our e-skin, the application of e-skin is not limited to the elderly. So that should cover the healthy people from the younger people and also senior people. And so when you wear your clothes, there is no sensors currently, but in the near future, I personally believe the 100 people start wearing the sensor. So in that sense, the application should be quite diverse and tremendous. But when I started this project, I thought the targeting elderly people shouldn't be too difficult, but I could be wrong. Indeed, here I bring the first generation of e-skin prototype. That is, you know, the design for the healthy people or athlete to capture the motion. But obviously, this is not so easy for elderly to wear. So that's the reason why we try to customize we try to manufacture the special pants for the elderly so that the elderly people can easy to wear. And also the accuracy is also different. So athlete motion needs the high precision, but simultaneously, the elderly people doesn't move so quickly. And then the another specification is needed. So again, we need the special design with targeting the, depending on the target users. So this is quite interesting question.
Thank you.
Mr. Goto, may I add something?
Yes, please.
Thank you very much. And also to further on answer the specific question where we can use this out, not only for elderly people, and for the strain sensors to monitor swollen legs, of course, this is a condition that may apply also to non-elderly people. When the coronavirus has been cleared out and we can start to travel, at least myself suffer from swollen legs while flying. So that could also be a situation where you can monitor that you can utilize this from time to time. more from a well-being point of view. So I think this will also blaze the trail for using these in applications, not only for elderly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Go ahead. Here,
So-
the president of Zenoma company here. So please add something.
So let me answer to the question about the application to sports. Actually, between University of Tokyo and the All Japan Taekwondo Association, they signed the joint project for improving the performance of the Taekwondo martial arts players. And now we're using this pens with the shirt to monitor the whole motion capture to evaluate and to show them how to improve their performance. So now we are using, for the top athletes, for next Tokyo Olympic, I hope.
That can be doping.
Like swimsuit. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Someone, okay, go ahead.
So Anders Karlsson Elsevier, former science counselor here at the embassy. In this collaborative project between Sweden and Japan involving industries on both sides, how do you handle issues around intellectual property?
Oh, that's a good, tough question. Go ahead.
Mats, would you like to answer this question?
Yeah, sure. I think it's a combination of luck and skill. We have chosen companies that are not competing with the same products. Instead, they are sort of complementing each other, so they can actually end up selling each other's products on the respective markets. So that is one way of solving it. So you don't have direct competitors.
Thank you. Okay. And the scheme project leaders, any comments?
Well, I would say just the role assignment is quite important to avoid the, quite complicated competing situation among our team. So indeed, we have two industrial partners, and Zenoma is going to make the this kind of wearable clothes and a system, and some real assessment can be done by NEC, and NEC is developing the system. So we are providing just basic technology, and we didn't see too difficult to reach the agreement related to the intellectual properties.
I see.
Mr. Goto, may I add something from Sweden? Oh, thank you very much. Dr. Karlsson, thank you very much for this question. Nice to see you again. The idea in this project has been that from the fundamental technology platform point of view, Japan takes the patent on their devices and we take the patents on our devices. Then we have a few companies on board from our side, and at the same time at the Japanese side, and whatever is relevant for their own technologies, they take their own patents. We have though discussed to form a company specifically for swollen legs. Takao and I and the partners have discussed this, and then in that case we will license our background patents to that specific applications, and there might also be a unique patent for that company to come. But this forming of a company, we are awaiting the results from the field tests on both the Japanese and Swedish side on the swollen legs. And when we have those at hand, which then will hopefully be the ground for and the base for starting a company, then we will take the decision. That is sort of how we have proceeded. Thank you.
Thank you. My question, so just curiosity, are those programs filed patent during the research period? Outcome as an outcome of this project? Applied or filed a patent?
In our project, not yet, I think. No.
So no problem. So Okay. Very good. Somewhere sensei.
Well, as far as I understand, we do not have any joint patent so far, but we do have some patent that is embedded by individual, individual institution and filed by individually.
So in case the four parties contributed to the intellectual property, then the four names are on filing the patent, maybe. This is an assumption or question.
Well, it's just a recognition of inventors. And, well, patent is usually realized by maybe one or two individuals. And then, well, I think if we make the distinctive definition of inventors, so I think the patent can be, easily described by individuals.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Can I ask you,
go ahead,
Dr.
yes.
Sumaya Sensei? Sensei, maybe you already started to invent, but do you already invent the sensor for upper limbs? Not only this e-skin is for, you show that it's for lower limbs movement. So,
well, currently today I bring only underwears, but Zenoma has already made the full body motion capturing system that is more complicated, where the maybe 18 sensors are embedded, and so in that way we can monitor the the full body motion.
Oh, okay, it's really it's really interesting because it's nice to apply to the clinical use in rehabilitation settings, like for physical motion and also upper limbs occupational therapies.
Yes. Another interesting application that is currently developed by Zenoma is a kind of a graph where the multiple sensors embedded on the fingertip to monitor the this kind of complicated hand motion. That may be used for human-machine interfaces or for the digital archive of craftsman's skills.
Thank you. I'm afraid the time is running out, and there anyone who dare to ask a small question? All right. Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you for the audience and questionnaires and questions and the panelists. Thank you. It's finishing the panel one. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this interesting discussion. It's certainly an important issue also with intellectual property rights, and it seems an interesting setup that you have. And I suppose also at the program start, you also sign agreements for how you will be handling the intellectual property rights. We'll now move over to the second panel discussion, where we will be trying to touch up on Sweden and Japan and the collaboration for the future. So participating physically here, I would like to invite Kajiwara-san and Matsumoto-san. And from Sweden, I think, and I see now we have Darja Isaksson, Director General from Vinnova. And we have Professor Sylvia Schwag-Serger, who is Deputy Vice Chancellor of Lund University, and among other things, also a member of the Prime Minister's Innovation Council. most welcome. So what we have been seeing and hearing today is important type of collaboration. So co-creation, collaboration, where we involve both industry and academia. It's also a collaboration that is focused on a societal challenge. And one main challenge, a really severe an urgent challenge for Japan, important challenge also for Sweden. And I would like to start by asking you, Matsumoto-san, when it comes to the concept of collaborating towards solutions for societal challenges, could you elaborate your views here in how the importance of that is towards society and for industry and so on?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'd like to introduce just a small story of our university, because first president of our university is a very famous person. His name is Kotaro Honda, and he was a researcher on magnetics. Anyhow, he said that technology grows where there is science. Science and industry develops where there is technology. It's a linear innovation model. But he said, industry is the school of science. And he's thinking the ecosystem of innovation. And so maybe even the scientists or engineers should remind what's the real societal problems like SDGs and so on. Now we in JST, we started the program on open innovation platform for industry academia co-creation, led by JST, involving the industry, academia, and other stakeholders. This program is promote research, developing R&D toward achieving targets to realize an ideal society in future based on SDGs, and aim at creating innovation by industry, academia, government partnership. Maybe we should always thinking about how to make networks between industrial people and academic people and so on.
Thank you. It sounds very important aspects. I would like to continue on the Swedish side and ask Director General Isaksson on your views on this.
Well, I can only agree about the importance of both science, technology, and not least ecosystems. So my remark would be that value creation has always been about understanding and addressing needs. It can be consumer needs, needs from other businesses, or for the public sector. And societal challenges represent global common needs at a global scale. For instance, the global pandemic that we are currently living through reminds us that the challenges we are facing today are global, and they can only be addressed by responsible action in every part of the world. But the pandemic also reminds us that the solutions to our challenges, be it in this case, for instance, vaccines or efficient, accurate, scalable testing, such solutions are in high demand everywhere. They are innovations with a global market. So if we think for a second about our joint global challenge of meeting our planetary deadline, we must cut carbon emissions in half within the decade that we are currently living in. We understand that meeting that deadline requires transforming many aspects of our society: how and what we transport, how we produce and use power, how we build our cities, what we eat. Now we can mobilize around these challenges. We should be motivated by the fact that it's a very real and urgent challenge, where our success is, in reality, science tells us, a make it or break it moment for all of human society. But we should also acknowledge that this, as well as other societal challenges of our time, actually represent the biggest value creation opportunity since the first industrial revolution. I am convinced that the most successful economies, as well as companies, are the ones who lead these transformations, provide the solutions, because that's simply where the demand will be.
Oh, thank you. Very interesting. So finding solutions is a driver for industrial competitiveness at the same time as addressing the actual societal challenges. Very interesting. Would you like to add anything to that, Professor Schweigsberger?
Thank you very much. I think some very interesting points have been made, and I would just like to also agree very strongly with the Director General of Vinnova and this point that value creation is about meeting needs, and that it is both a responsibility, but it's also a huge opportunity, a global opportunity. So I think that's something that we should bear in mind, and that I hope to speak to a little bit later in the discussion, where I think this collaboration between Japan and Sweden plays a significant role. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to continue with you also, Professor Schweigsberger, when we have here heard now of a co-creation program, industry, academia collaboration, but of course also collaboration between two countries that are on a high scientific level, both of them. We have certain similarities, but also differences between us. What are your thoughts around advantages and disadvantages of this type of international collaboration?
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you for inviting me. I think it's been a very, very interesting listening to the presentations and also the projects. If I may, before I returned to academia 3 years ago, I was working at Vinnova for 10 years, and I was responsible for international collaboration. And I would like to say I've been following the collaboration between Japan and Sweden very closely now for 15 years. And I would say on a national level, this collaboration is perhaps one of the most longstanding and substantial collaborations that I have been allowed to both be responsible for and to witness. And so I think Dr. Goto, but also the advisor to the foreign minister, and I'm sorry, I did not catch his name, made some very valuable points about international collaboration. And I would just like to add to those that the kind of collaboration that we're seeing here today is something that does not happen overnight. It is based on relationship building, on common interests, common views on problems, but also on trust. And I think in the collaboration between Japan and Sweden, a lot of the hard work has already been done, because we have spent 15 years or more, at least as long as I can remember, building this collaboration. And what sign of its strength is that we've been able to expand it from purely academic collaboration to this mix of industry and academia collaboration, which again builds on trust and relationships. And in addition, we have also a very strong academic collaboration with the Mirai network of the Swedish and Japanese universities. So we have a very strong academic collaboration, and then we have this industry academic collaboration. And if you add to that we have quite similar goals, as I think we've heard today, in our common interest in sustainability, and in also putting technology to use for society, for our societies and for the global common good, I think we have a very strong framework upon which to build future collaboration, which I think, as Daya Isaksson was mentioned and others, will not only be beneficial to us, but will be also extremely important if we want to tackle our common challenges. And finally, if I could just add, we have some very interesting areas that we've also been working on in the academic collaboration, which is artificial intelligence, which is materials and aging and sustainability. And these are areas where we have strong common scientific strengths, also strong industrial strengths, and again, an interest in putting these sciences and technologies to good use for society. And incidentally, for example, artificial intelligence is something we will also be discussing in our meeting in the Prime Minister's Innovation Council this afternoon, and more specifically, how we work with other countries, bringing in also the aspect of science diplomacy that was brought up before. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for bringing in also this historic perspective on our very long-standing relations. Kajiwara-san, what are your thoughts around the Swedish-Japanese collaboration?
Yeah, so Japan and Sweden, both become the aging societies. So, and then we have shared the same problem awareness, and then we have an advantage to the start of joint researches. So in this field easily, but at the same time, so both countries has a different points in the social system and national characters. So and then we learn to the many different points from each other, and then we that case we can generate the innovative idea. So in the sense as well, we believe that it's a great significant to continue to the joint research with Sweden. We'd like to cooperate with Sweden in the most appropriate the program through the various frameworks, including the Horizon Europe and the EU's next research framework program. That's all.
Thank you. And we are very much hoping that Japan will decide to become associated to the next European Framework Program. I think that would be a huge game changer in our ability and to collaborate even closer. Of course, with a lot of European companies, but with the relations between Japan and Sweden, I think especially for us also. I know there is an ongoing discussion and agreement concerning Horizon Europe's missions and the Japanese moonshot program around this. I'd like to continue also so what I think in this question also understand that it's solutions that we jointly can bring forward can be very internationally strong and appeal a large part of the world. But if we start to look a little bit into how and in what we should collaborate, if we should continue to deepen our collaborations, what are your suggestions and thoughts concerning areas and fields to address? Yes.
Okay, the Japan and Sweden can collaborate with the many area in the global issue. So that we shared. So and moreover, so this year, so that the revision of the Japan's Basic Act of the Science and Technology positively positioned the humanities and social sciences within the scope of science and technology. So by the COVID-19 pandemic, so the importance of the research of the humanities and social science have been amplified. So in addition, the project regarding the innovative food technology system talked today is currently supported by aspect of the social sciences. So, and we'd like to positively promote the research in the humanities and social science. And so we consider that there will be a possibility to the cooperation with Sweden, including those fields. And so.
Thank you very much. And you also touch upon the fact that Japan now is formulating your 6th basic plan for science, technology, and innovation, and also looking into the Basic Act for Science, Technology, and Innovation, where you say that social sciences and humanities will come in and get a bigger role. This is, of course, a very important aspect, also integrated in societal challenge approach, as well as SDGs, I think. So Darja Isaksson, what is your comments and ideas around this, the issue of what should we perhaps continue to collaborate around?
Well, let me first say that I'm very happy about the collaboration between our two countries because they create opportunities for research and innovation in addressing common challenges. So I'm just pleased to even get this question because I see it as an expression of mutual interest in developing our collaboration further, which I think is the most important point I want to make. Now, the SDGs themselves represent many opportunities to explore where co-creation between academia, and I would like to also support strongly the point of multidisciplinarity here. We need humanities, social sciences working together with science and technology, more technology-driven perspectives, but also together with industry and startup. So we need this. We need the public-private, we need industry and startups to work together. We also need to develop our ability to include citizens and even civil society in order to achieve these goals. There is an opportunity to take the perspective of general purpose technology such as AI, which will be crucial in order to address the challenges. Again, this is an area where multidisciplinarity is key, because by integrating humanities, social sciences in innovation, where we both address technological innovation, how we apply it, but also behavior and demand, for instance, and ethical aspects in innovation is very important. We know that the ability to build strong ecosystems creates the foundation for innovation. So when we are capable of drawing on having access to the knowledge as well as the infrastructure, creating ecosystems that are capable of driving technological advances, applying them in ways that address all these societal, social, ethical perspectives will be essential for competitiveness. So I'm very happy to see that Sweden is a country with both strong research in these fields, as well as a world-class ecosystem of startups and a growing ecosystem where industry, academia, and startups are working together, building on mutual strengths. So, and I also see that our innovation partnerships on a national level with Germany and France are innovation partnerships where we are working on this theme. So perhaps that could be something to explore for Japan and Sweden as well, together.
Oh, thank you. Very interesting idea. Matsumoto-san, what are your thoughts around this?
of course, those collaboration with many people is very important. At this moment, I'm worried about how to involve the normal citizens in innovation. Thinking of the specialists, like a scientist, engineers, they know what's technology or science, but the normal citizen don't know what that, in some sense. And of course, after 2011, just wait, the nuclear accident, we suffered very big questions from normal citizens. What you do, how dare you did? And those things, we should always explain what we are doing as a scientist and as engineers. And maybe the important things in education, for example, where sometimes we are discussing about the STEM, science, technology, and what the STEM? Science, technology, engineering, sorry, mathematics. But we should think about the liberal art, A. We should add A. And so that we should move from STEM to STEAM. And also, at this moment, we have, in Japan, we have many programs about how to encourage the scientists and the engineers. Because many years ago, during the period of high economic growth in Japan, curiosity of great researchers and their passions to solve societal issues brought great innovation. But nowadays, recently, there is a common concern that Japan's level of research has weakened due to the decrease in the number of researchers and the amount of research funding. So that JST decided to pay lots of fundamental funding to the university and also collaborating with the industries, how to stimulate those things in both industrial people and academic people. And Japan would like to send our researchers to many countries to stay a longer time. And it will make strengthen our research collaboration. The human relation should be most important things, how to collaborate it. Okay.
Thank you so much for this. We're starting to run a little bit late, but I would like to hear from you, Sylvia Schwarzenegger, also your input around this.
Yes, thank you. I think some very important points have been made. So I would completely agree with the need to think about how to involve citizens. To that, I would also like to add, perhaps with our collaboration, which we can see has been very successful in terms of science, when you look at the number of co-publications, but also the quality of co-publications, but also the concrete industrial, the project collaborations that we've seen today. What I would like to think about is how we could perhaps include students more in our collaborations, young people, because that I think would address some of the questions you're raising about how to bring this more, in how to strengthen and deepen the collaboration beyond the scientists. And the companies. And the other thing with the arts and humanities, I completely agree. This is something I would also like to endorse. And finally, just that I think what we share among all the other things we've said, and also the fact that we've built up this longstanding base for collaboration, is that we're both mature democracies with strong considerations, for participation, citizen participation, for ethics, and as I said, for building future societies. And I think Japan's recent ambition also to become CO2 neutral, just like Sweden's, is not going to be solved only with technology. So we have to really think about, and I think we're ready to think about how things like carbon neutrality, artificial intelligence, how we together can make these technologies more generally valuable by including social sciences and humanities, but also bringing it closer to the people in a truly democratic fashion. So I would like to just add that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I would like to open up for questions from the auditorium, and if there are any questions also from our online participants.
I have one question from Sweden here, Magnus Bergen.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I would like to add on to some of the things that we discussed in the beginning about how to transfer scientific results into development projects and finally into business. After my own 20 plus years of experience running research projects, I also would like to state one very important additional factor is that with collaborations with industry, we also identify several fundamental research topics that we are bringing back into science. So it's not only the one directional pathway bringing out science, it's also to bring in science into research labs that is equally important. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Also additional comments from panel members, both from the earlier panel and from this panel. No. Oh, sorry. Was it Sylvia or?
Daria wanted to say.
Daria, okay, thanks.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I think I made my remark in the chat otherwise, but I can only strongly agree with the previous comments, both on the value of integrating humanities and social scientists moving towards STEAM. But I would also like to highlight that at Vinnova, we have very positive experiences of including citizens in innovation co-creation, addressing challenges. We have piloted this related to food and mobility challenges, and I would really love to see similar approaches going forward also in this collaboration, if that's of interest.
Sounds very, very positive. Ambassador Högberg.
Thank you so much. I take the opportunity to actually pose one little comment. I really like what I'm hearing now, that is to bring in social sciences and humanities also in this. But one thing that strikes me, as has happened in Japan just during the last few months, or it's been explained and brought to the forefront just in the last few months, is of course to be carbon free and sustainability and climate change, but also to do more of reforms in the Japanese society, not least when it comes to digitalization. And I think here Sweden and Japan could really do a lot of things together with our perhaps a bit longer experiences. And now Japan stands ready to move quite quickly forward. And there is a genuine interest both from the research community and from the government, and I believe strongly that consumer demand or people demand will increase in Japan very quickly in the next few years when the opportunities to use digitalization will come. So here I really see a way of both bringing people in, but also to see that Japan will be in the lead together with Sweden.
Thank you. Before I thank the panel and close this session, I'm quite curious on your next meeting, Sylvia Schwag-Serger. You will be off now for a meeting at the Prime Minister's Innovation Council. Could you just say a few words on what this will be focused on here?
Thank you, Mikael. So we have these meetings 4 times a year. Daria Isaksson was also in the previous Innovation Council, so we both have experience of this. This is perhaps similar to other countries' innovation councils or councils for science and technology policy, but we're about 12 members from academia, industry, and society, and trying to advise the Prime Minister, but also the Prime Minister usually has with him 5 or 6 other ministers and state secretaries to focus on topics that require a holistic approach to innovation and science and technology. And so just as an example, this afternoon, as I mentioned earlier, artificial intelligence will be an issue from the perspective of not only how do we strengthen our strengths and how do we make sure we're internationally excellent, but also how do we use it in the public sector? How do we make sure we don't abuse the use of artificial intelligence? And how should we collaborate with other countries and with which countries in a responsible, but also a way that can meet both our own needs for development and the global needs. So I think I'm happy to take this discussion with me into the discussion this afternoon, because I think we had there were some really interesting points made. Thank you.
Thank you, and good luck with the meeting. So thank you so much, all panelists here, present panel, as well as the former panel. We'll now move over to some reflections from us moderators before we will close this symposium. Thank you. So as you are the first panel moderator, what are your conclusions and reflections?
Thanks to the audience and the panelists. We enjoyed the talking, and especially the comments from Isaacson and Schwarzenegger, the very important comments. So the touching with the needs is important, the ecosystem or kind of social, not just technology kind of things. So usually, but professors may be doing that, but I regret I was not so conscious about. I'm managing a project for the goal or purpose time. I've been concentrating on this sort of things. However, this sort of meaning have been given today. Why the projects are going well. So this sort of important points have been covered. So I think the things are going well. So like Jacobs covered the innovation and the extension to not just the aging issues. Those projects we are happy to be used as a good sample that we are proving that international cooperation works. So thanks for the projects and the question people and the comment people. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm also very impressed from the presentations and the discussions. For me, it has become clear that the actual approach to try to focus on a societal challenge and bring forward solutions. And we heard that this program also has been set up in two stages, first with more projects and then a stage gate, and the second a bit longer project period with also increased budgets. We heard today that you're very well on the way towards very interesting commercial applications. We also see that applications that you find can be used also beyond only the active and healthy aging. So you'll be able to find also other areas to implement it. And of course, for sure, this will be solutions that will not only be of interest for Sweden and for Japan, but for a large part of the world. So it can help to not only make society better, but also drive competitiveness and growth for industry. In the panel discussions, also, I feel that a conclusion is that we have very long-standing relations. We have good relations. We are two also strong nations within research, and now moving more and more into innovation also. So there is a very good foundation to continue collaboration. And we we heard also some suggestions of areas where we could perhaps deepen. I would assume this is maybe a starting point in our continued discussion to see how and in which areas and in which ways could we deepen our collaboration. So thank you so much once again, everyone, and I would like to invite JST here, Shirokizawa-san, to give your concluding remarks. Welcome.
Your Excellency, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, good evening or good morning. My name is Shirokizawa Yoshiko, Vice President of the Japan Science and Technology Agency, JST. I am delighted and honored on behalf of the organizers of the symposium to close this excellent event. It has been a great success. First of all, this success would not have been achieved without our partner organization's dedication to the event. We truly thank our Swedish partners, Vinnova, for co-organizing, the Swedish Embassy of Japan for co-organizing and co-hosting, and the Japanese government organizations, the Ministry of Education, Culture, Sports, Science and Technology, MEXT, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, MOFA, for supporting this symposium. I would also like to thank all the researchers for your participation and presentations. As you know, this symposium is a hybrid, which means the combination of physical and online attendance due to COVID-19. I also thank all the audience for their cooperation and for making this symposium successful and fruitful. Your insights, ideas, and views expressed today will no doubt enhance our bilateral research collaborative program in the future. From Japan's point of view, our bilateral ties with Sweden have been very strong in many areas, and our collaboration in the science, technology, and innovation area undoubtedly plays a crucial role. I would like to take this opportunity to briefly go through the history of the research collaboration between Vinnova and JST. Vinnova and JST started our research collaboration in 2004 in the field of multidisciplinary bio. Multidisciplinary bio is multidisciplinary research which combines life sciences with other scientific fields. And we managed to remarkably strengthen our science and technology cooperation with 27 projects completed in the 10-year period. On top of that, we have shared our ambitions to solve global challenges the world is facing today. In 2016, Vinnova and JST found that aging societies should be the next collaborative area. Population aging is an obvious choice since it is a common and rapidly growing challenge that greatly affects our economy and society. We then successfully established the first international academic industry partnership program in the field of innovative solutions, community design, and services for elderly people, in which we launched 4 projects. 2 projects that you have just seen today have passed the stage gate evaluation and moved to the phase 2. The goal of phase 2 is practical implementation, and I hope that these 2 projects will make great contribution to society. As you may have learned today, the program seeks to apply innovative solutions for aging society to a real-world environment. The situation with COVID-19 will be challenging. However, and I strongly hope that deeper and more robust understanding of our program as well as aging society reached during today's symposium accelerates our bilateral cooperation among all stakeholders. If we all can continue the level of spirit shown today throughout the program period, I believe we can achieve great success by the end, just like we did today. And I hope Sweden and Japan keep working together to achieve SDGs. Thank you very much for your kind attention and congratulations on the successful symposium. Tack för idag. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And with this, we conclude today's symposium. So thank you all who have joined online, and thank you all here who have joined physically in the audience.